How did a small group of rebellious colonies become the most powerful nation in the world? In just a few minutes, we'll take a quick look into the fascinating journey of the United States' rise to global dominance. From the 13 colonies fighting for independence to becoming a military, economic, and cultural superpower. We'll cover it all. In this video, we'll break down key moments in U.S. history in a simple, easy-to-understand way, so you can grasp how the U.S. grew from humble beginnings to the powerhouse it is today. If you're new to USA Revealed, subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. In the early 1600s, 13 colonies were established along the eastern coast of North America, each controlled by Britain. Over time, the settlers in these colonies began to grow more independent, but their relationship with Britain was increasingly strained. The British government imposed taxes and laws without the colonies' consent, leading to widespread frustration. The famous cry of "no taxation without representation" became the rallying cry for colonists demanding greater autonomy. Tensions escalated, and in 1775, open warfare broke out between the colonies and Britain. This sparked the American Revolution, a conflict that would change the course of history. Led by figures like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Benjamin Franklin, the colonies fought fiercely for their freedom. Major battles like the Siege of Yorktown in 1781, with crucial French support, eventually led to Britain's surrender. The Treaty of Paris in 1783 officially recognized the United States as an independent nation. But winning independence was just the beginning. The new country faced many challenges. The Articles of Confederation, its first form of government, proved too weak to hold the states together. Disputes over territory, differing state interests, and economic problems made it clear that a stronger government was needed. This led to the drafting of the U.S. Constitution in 1787, which established the framework for the federal government we know today, balancing power between the states and the central government. In those early years, the fledgling U.S. also faced constant threats from both external forces and internal divisions. But despite these struggles, the United States was on its way to becoming a new kind of nation, one founded on liberty, self-governance, and a bold vision of what was to come. In the early 1800s, the United States began to rapidly expand its territory. One of the first major steps in this expansion was the Louisiana Purchase of 1803, when President Thomas Jefferson bought a vast stretch of land from France, doubling the size of the country. This acquisition paved the way for future exploration and settlement of the West. Soon after, the idea of manifest destiny emerged, the belief that it was America's divine right and duty to expand across the entire North American continent from the Atlantic to the Pacific. The U.S. aggressively pursued this expansion, acquiring land through treaties, wars, and settlement. The annexation of Texas in 1845, the Oregon Trail, and the Mexican-American War, which ended in 1848 with the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, all contributed to the country's rapid territorial growth. By the mid-1800s, the U.S. stretched from the Atlantic to the Pacific, with new territories in the West, including California, Arizona, and New Mexico. The discovery of gold in California in 1848 only accelerated this westward push, as people flooded the area in hopes of striking it rich. While the country was expanding, industrialization was transforming the U.S. economy. The early 19th century saw the rise of factories powered by steam engines and the development of the railroad system, which revolutionized transportation. Railroads connected the East and West, allowing goods, resources, and people to move more efficiently. This infrastructure was crucial in linking the newly acquired territories with the rest of the country, enabling the U.S. to grow both economically and politically. The Industrial Revolution spurred incredible economic growth, making the U.S. one of the leading industrial nations by the late 1800s. New inventions like the telegraph and the cotton gin helped increase productivity, and factories produced everything from textiles to machinery. This period also brought significant social changes. The rise of cities, the influx of immigrants seeking work, and the growth of new markets all played a role in shaping modern American society. With industry booming, the U.S. was quickly becoming a powerful, modern nation, setting the stage for its future dominance. The United States initially maintained a policy of neutrality during the early years of World War I. However, by 1917, German aggression, particularly the sinking of American ships, forced the U.S. to join the conflict on the side of the Allies. The U.S. entry was a game-changer. Within months, American troops, led by General John J. Pershing, bolstered the weary Allied forces. With its industrial might, the U.S. provided essential supplies, weapons, and financial support, helping to tip the balance in favor of the Allies. By the time the war ended in 1918, the U.S. had emerged as a major global power, both economically and militarily. The war marked a shift in American foreign policy from isolationism to a more active role in world affairs. However, it was World War II that truly cemented the U.S. as a dominant military and economic force. The war began in 1939, but the U.S. remained neutral until the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941. This attack prompted the U.S. to declare war on Japan, and soon after, Germany declared war on the U.S. The country's industrial power played a crucial role in the Allied victory. American factories produced an overwhelming amount of war materials, tanks, planes, and weapons, faster than any other nation, propelling the Allies to victory. Additionally, millions of U.S. soldiers fought on multiple fronts, from Europe to the Pacific. In the aftermath of the war, the United States was not only victorious, but it also emerged as one of the two superpowers, alongside the Soviet Union. The war left much of Europe in ruins, and the U.S. played a central role in rebuilding through the Marshall Plan, which provided billions of dollars in aid to European countries. This helped stabilize Western Europe and prevent the spread of communism. The war also marked the rise of the U.S. as a nuclear power. In 1945, the U.S. dropped atomic bombs on Japan, ending the war, but also ushering in the nuclear age. This new military capability changed global dynamics, with the U.S. now holding unprecedented power. As the Cold War began, the United States became the leader of the free world, championing democracy and capitalism. The U.S. took a central role in establishing international organizations like the United Nations, UN, in 1945, aiming to prevent future global conflicts and promote diplomacy. The U.S. would continue to exert its influence on the world stage throughout the 20th century, shaping the course of history in countless ways. After World War II, the United States found itself locked in a bitter rivalry with the Soviet Union, a standoff that would define much of the 20th century. This era, known as the Cold War, wasn't fought with traditional battles, but through ideological conflict, capitalism versus communism, and intense military competition. The world was divided into two camps, with the U.S. leading the democratic, capitalist West, and the USSR heading the communist East. One of the most intense moments of the Cold War came in 1962 during the Cuban Missile Crisis, when the Soviet Union placed nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles from the U.S. This brought the two superpowers to the brink of nuclear war. The crisis ended when the U.S. and the Soviet Union agreed to remove their missiles, but the tension continued, and both sides heavily armed themselves with increasingly powerful nuclear weapons, escalating the arms race. Meanwhile, the space race became another battlefield in the Cold War, with the U.S. and the Soviet Union competing to prove technological and ideological superiority. In 1969, the U.S. achieved a landmark victory with the moon landing, when astronaut Neil Armstrong became the first human to walk on the moon, symbolizing American triumph in the competition for space dominance. The Cold War also saw a series of proxy wars, conflicts fought indirectly between the superpowers by supporting opposing sides in countries like Korea, Vietnam, and Afghanistan. While these wars were not direct battles between the U.S. and the Soviet Union, they were part of the broader struggle for global influence. During this period, the U.S. also maintained its leadership role on the world stage. As the leader of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization (NATO), the U.S. helped organize the defense of Western Europe against Soviet aggression. The U.S. also took the lead in creating global financial institutions like the International Monetary Fund (IMF) to stabilize the world economy. Alongside military and political power, American culture began to spread worldwide. The Hollywood film industry, rock and roll, and innovations like television and computers played a major role in shaping global trends. The American cultural export made the U.S. not just a military and economic superpower, but also a cultural force with enormous global influence. The Cold War may have been a battle of ideologies, but the U.S.'s cultural, technological, and political leadership during this time proved that it had a unique and undeniable impact on the world. By the late 20th and early 21st centuries, the United States had firmly established itself as the world's most dominant superpower, not only in terms of military strength, but also as a global economic and cultural force. The U.S. economy became a central hub for international trade, with the stock market in New York driving much of the world's financial transactions. The rise of multinational corporations like Apple, Microsoft, and Google, particularly in Silicon Valley, solidified the U.S. as the heart of global innovation. These companies, along with the rise of tech industries, made the U.S. economy an essential player on the world stage, shaping industries and markets across every corner of the globe. At the same time, the military might of the United States extended across the world. With military bases scattered across dozens of countries, the U.S. maintained a presence in nearly every region, projecting power and influence wherever necessary. American military technology, including advanced aircraft, missiles, and intelligence systems, made it a formidable force in any conflict. The U.S. played a key role in international peacekeeping and the establishment of alliances such as NATO, acting as a stabilizing force in regions like Europe and the Middle East. Through military interventions and strategic diplomacy, the U.S. influenced global events, shaping political outcomes in places like the Balkans, the Persian Gulf, and beyond. Alongside its economic and military power, American culture began to dominate global conversations. The Hollywood film industry produced movies that captivated audiences around the world, from blockbusters like Star Wars to action-packed thrillers. Music from artists like Michael Jackson, Madonna, and later Beyoncé reached global audiences, and brands like Coca-Cola, Nike, and McDonald's became cultural symbols recognized from Paris to Beijing. This cultural hegemony was driven by the widespread popularity of American technology, such as personal computers, smartphones, and social media platforms, which further entrenched the U.S. in people's daily lives worldwide. However, this status as the undisputed superpower is not without challenges. Emerging powers like China and Russia have started to push back against American influence, especially in the realms of global trade and military alliances. At the same time, the U.S. faces significant domestic challenges, including political divisions, growing economic inequality, and mounting environmental crises. These internal struggles, combined with the rise of competing global powers, have raised questions about how long the U.S. will maintain its position as the world's preeminent superpower. Nevertheless, America's economic, military, and cultural dominance continues to shape global trends, making it a powerful force on the world stage. The USA's rise from a small group of colonies to the most powerful country on Earth is a story of resilience, innovation, and global influence. But the question remains, what does the future hold for this superpower? Will it continue to lead, or will emerging challenges shift the balance of power? We'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think the next chapter in the USA's history might look like? Drop your comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more insightful videos on history and global affairs.